Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on January 25th, 2023 at approximately 4:22 p.m. PST. Now, I returned to this world for one primary reason, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Okay, the reason I build myself as a spiritual guide is simply because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use on a day-to-day basis. And the philosophies of life that I bring to the table are literally the ones that I personally live by. Now, before we get started here, I'm going to start off with the idea of Philip is already in the chat room with a gold. Shadow, you've come in with silver. Joe is next through the doorway with a bronze. And who do we have here? Because I can't read it quite. And Peterkin is in with honorable mention. Now the reality is, as you guys all know, I run into really neat complications with technology. Do apologize for yesterday. Well, actually, in all fairness, I don't. But the reality is that yesterday was a problem for me. Came very close to another heart attack because unfortunately I let stress levels get way too far out of hand. Okay, this is a bad situation. Mr. L, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Now the reason I decided to take a look at the whole concept of bullying, okay, and the issue of, are you being bullied without even knowing it? Okay, many people, sad to say, are actually bullying themselves. Okay, little Katie, glad you could join us. In a nutshell there, Katie, I actually let my stress level get way too high. Blood pressure went through the roof, and I decided, that I was on the verge of a minor heart attack, and I was ready to rip anybody's head off because I had so many problems with people that should have done their job. And once again, and I'm not giving anybody names, but once again, I was dealing with a corporation that has not done their job and was turning around and blaming me for it. Again, fabulous thing about corporations in today's world. They have this incredible capacity of painting a real good picture so you spend money and then they do not deliver. Which is one of the reasons why I said when I turned around and said, I'm going to be building a an actual publishing company. Well, I've already got it. Now I just have to set it in motion and actually do the work. Okay, there we go. The screen I was looking for, now I'll be able to see what it is. I think I've got the noise on, so pardon the hiccup that it's going to give here. And here we go. It's going to feed back on me. There we are. There we kill that little volume. Okay. Thanks so much there, Philip. MYJ, welcome aboard. Glad you made it today. The reality of it is, if we are told, if you're told by somebody else, or if you tell yourself that you're never going to do something unless you do it this way, or unless you learn to do it other people's way, this is another form of subtle bullying. Okay, now the unfortunate part from everything I've seen is just about everyone is actually guilty of it to one degree or another. Now, for those of you that are going to stand there and go, well, they won't do this, but Saint, how you doing? Yeah, I got told, Philip, that my frustration, like, apparently, mentally speaking, 3 psychiatrists, the people that are trained to understand the way people think, 3 independent ones have told me, mentally speaking, I'm perfectly fine, except I have one heck of a temper where it comes to dealing with what I call idiots, what I call stupid people. So their combined diagnosis was, go home, have a nice life, and stay away from stupid people. And good luck with that. What do we got here? Saints just saying, RKA, great news. I was hired by a really upscale barbershop. Tie vest, slacks, dress code. Tie vest, slacks, dress code. That is absolutely fantastic, Saint. Well done. Give yourself a pat on the back. Now to start putting that to work. But unfortunately, most of us have spent our life with somebody saying, you don't do it my way, you're going to be punished. Bad news, first marker of a bully. Do it my way or I'm going to punish you. Now, don't mistake that for a business owner going, here's the rules. This is the parameters working for me. Okay, if they're laid out ahead of time, then you're not talking about bullying. You're talking about these are the boundaries, these are the rules, deal with it. If you want the job, these are it. If you've accepted the job, then follow the rules you've been told. Okay. Now, the reality is when I said I was going to build a publishing company, I've already got it. Now I'm just figuring out how to make it work. And I'm still having that neat little problem that literally every single person I've talked to, every company I've talked to that said we can do it. Okay. Oh, okay. That would be appreciated there, Philip. Many of the old quotes are actually really, really good. Okay. But the reason I looked at it is this. Every single company that I have talked to, without exception now, has laid out a full pattern of this is what I'm going to be, and this is what we can do for you. This is what we will do for you. And without exception, they've taken my money and have not fulfilled their end. Okay, but where it comes to the bullying, if somebody is sitting there telling you, live your life in fear, because if you don't do it my way, I'm going to make your life miserable. I'm going to take away something from you. I'm going to make it harder and harder for you to live. You've got the freedom to do it your way. Absolutely, you've got freedom. But do it my way or else. Hate to tell you this, that's not freedom. Okay. But as long as the person is up front to start with, okay, it's not bullying. It is literally, here's the parameters. You do this, you get this benefit. You don't do it, you get this problem. That is what we technically call, well, literally, full disclosure. Okay. Now, people do it to themselves. If you're constantly telling yourself you will never get anywhere in life, sad to say, you're convincing yourself quite readily. Okay. Oh, there we go. Philip came back with it. Stupidity is a more dangerous enemy of the good than evil. This was said by Dietrich. Whoop, that's moving too fast. Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Okay. So ultimately, herd mentality. I like the way you put that, YJ. Herd mentality giving the illusion of morality. Now, Kimberly, how are you? That was where I ran into the problem, more into the benefit. I don't know. The ones that, and much like you, Kimberly, I've spent my life connecting with people that have been on the downside of things. Okay, now I never did learn to separate the rich from the poor, the black from the white. In all fairness, when I was in school, there were only two North American Indians. Okay, there's all kinds of names for them. And whether you want to call them North American Indians, First Nations, call them what you will. Okay, in a school full of white people, of white Christians, the people I didn't get bullied by were the so-called First Nations. Okay, Now, I refer to them as first so-called because they weren't the first people here. You look back through history, they were not the first on North America. Okay, but I'm not going into the history of it. That's just not going to work. Actually, in all fairness, like Kimberly's gone underdogs rule. Some of the underdogs, quite frankly, literally set themselves up for it. Okay. I've seen people literally go, "Oh, I've had a hard life. You should feel pity for me." Prime example. Okay, and this guy was technically an underdog. Shadow, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And yeah, I realized you were in earlier and then probably ran off to do something you had to. Oh, many of the underdogs, of the people that have been beaten down so far, really cannot stand up for themselves. They don't know how anymore. Okay. And this is why I say stepping up. And, I like the way it was put in the X-Men. Okay. My message to you is those with the strength protect those without. Okay. That is what we have to look at. And I'm not talking about the ones that go, like one gentleman I ran into on the street. Okay. He was, he's sitting outside on the outside of the grocery store asking for money. Now, I asked him point blank. I says, look, I like knowing what put people where. And he goes, well, I've actually got a full-time job. I've just got no extra money to get anything extra. Now, right across the parking lot, I pointed at it. I says, have you considered going over to McDonald's and getting a part-time job? Because I know for a fact that particular restaurant, that particular branch will hire you and will hire people and work around their schedule. His immediate comment was, I'm not working for that person, meaning I'm short on cash, but I would rather ask somebody else to foot the bill for me than go out and work for it. Okay. This is another subtle way of somebody doing bullying, making you, or rather encouraging you, to feel guilty that they're having a bad time because of the fact they refuse to get off their tail feathers. Hey, Joe. Joe just said it snowed bad all day here. I gotta ask you, is snowing good, meaning it travels from the ground back up into the sky so you don't have to deal with it down here? Because I'll tell you, for me, that's a good snowfall because it takes the ice with it. Oh, you're absolutely right there, Philip. Okay, and before we get too terribly sidetracked on that, okay, when we're, the reality of it is that every single person in every walk of life is on equal footing. I do not look at people as different. I mean, they all have their differences, absolutely. But if you're hanging around people that are telling you things with the obvious intention of making you feel like you're doing something wrong because you're not doing it their way, this is a way of bullying. Anybody that tells you that this is the only way, the only way to get somewhere, I'm telling you right off the bat, in all of recorded history, and understand, in my case, I remember past lives from a staggering level. Okay. Every single person in history that tells you that they are the only route missed one very big factor. And it was actually, I don't know who coined the phrase, but when Romulus and Remus first set Rome up, there was a concept that came to light that said, there was a concept that came to light that said all roads lead to Rome. Okay. Well, they didn't technically, but it's the same thing. Okay. You desire what people have come to call Eden or paradise. You desire to see that on earth. It's time to start modifying things. Joe, how are you? Actually, I think, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Joe, what do we got here? Yeah, Joe goes, I like snow. It keeps people from coming to my house. See, I find a locked door works really well for that. And no, I did not get my coffee today, so this is just straight water. But too many people go, it has to be done this way. Okay. What do we got here? Philip said Jesus and Socrates both warned against the thoughtless repeating of what we now call talking points. I absolutely agree with that part, which is why, from my standpoint, I always tell you, don't just take my word for it. Do your own research. Okay. I mean, there's a lot that I will tell you I've got no way of proving. No way at all. Doesn't change the fact that I look at it that way. You know, and then, yeah. And Philip goes on to point out that these two particular figures are the most prominent in Western art, have been the most prominent in Western art in the last 2,000 years. The funny thing is that if you look at the way that those two worked, okay, they were absolutely brilliant. But there is so much misstated, and I'm not going to go any further into that today. Okay. I'm guessing, what do we got here? Ultimately, you're absolutely right there, YJ. And this is why I say part of the issue of derailing bullying amongst from one person to the next is number one, not to stand idly by while it takes place. Okay. Number two, if you can find something positive in what you're going through, okay, or what somebody is pointing out, if you can take something positive out of that, then you can actually take that negative inference and turn it around in a positive way. You know, but I have to look at it now. Joe's taking off. Okay. Go and do enjoy your time with them, Joe. Like I have told people, family has to come first. And this is why, like my son, he's out in the front room and he knows if there's an emergency, I would call, walk out of this room and drop the call if I have to. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. See, one of the things that I have found, and this is why I say, and it ties right in. Can we try one thought at a time? What do you think? When we look at the way society is set up, overthrowing society will not work well. It's been tried multiple times over the centuries. Every single time, people have gone back to right where it was. Okay. Now, I brought this topic up to people years ago and was immediately shot down for it. Now, there are people that are legitimately on welfare, on social services, on social security, whatever. There are people legitimately that cannot work. Okay. You take my older brother before he passed away. He could not stand up, sit down, lay down, stay awake, or stay asleep for longer than 2 hours at a stretch on any one of those. Somebody like this is not capable of working. Okay. So with somebody like that, absolutely. But the people that are staying home because they don't want to work or because their self-esteem is low. I mean, don't get me wrong, self-esteem is a massive problem. Okay. Well, of course you found junk files, but I don't really care right now. Just a pop-up blocking everything in my way. Okay. People that sit down and go, I don't feel like I can work. Okay, those people, I can understand the issue. I barely leave my house. Like, I leave because I know I have to. Okay, but I don't leave the house very much. And there are things I do not deal well with. But I suggested very clearly, I said, look, how about if we do two major changes? Okay, one, we hire one person that is paid, a government employee that is paid per 20 people on social services that can work and simply don't have a job, either because they're not looking for one or because they can't find one, doesn't matter, but they're capable. You take one hired government employee to watch over a 20-person road crew, where all these people that are on Social Security are out 8 hours a day picking up the garbage, cleaning up the parks, whatever. Okay. Now, I suggested this happen, and I got told flat out that I'm taking away from those people's rights. Well, certainly I am, because their right to sit on their tail feathers is absolutely ironclad. However, their right to sit on their tail feathers and thereby have no money is also their right. Now, I suggest that, okay, because too many people, I know of one guy, he claimed, like, I went for help with social services one day because EI had messed up and I was out of money. Told social services, I'll pay you back, I'll pay back penny for penny as soon as it gets in. They turned around and went, we can't help you because you applied. And yet another gentleman that I knew of turned around, he walks into social services, and the reason he needed help was because he voluntarily quit a job because from his mouth to my ears, he wasn't making as much as somebody that had worked there for 10 years. So he walked off the floor. Social services up here had him on the system in less than 24 hours. Now, that's the kind of person that needs to be out working. Okay. Hey, Joe. Glad you could join us. You could get back. Well, you cannot complain on them coming down and coming out to do that. But I found out something, and this is where I said, are you accidentally bullying yourself? Okay. If somebody else is constantly telling you, you can't do this, you're not capable of doing this. Okay. Most of the time, people look at that and go, they're mentally railroading you. They're mentally abusing you, telling you you're not capable. Okay. So if that's called mental abuse, is it not the same situation if you sit there and tell yourself, I can't do this? I used to tell myself, there is no way, I've got a pathetic memory for names. It's about that long. Okay. In a way of looking at it, this was me bullying me. Okay. Ultimately, Philip, that's pretty much the same. We're going to give you, as a matter of fact, up here, there was a politician that he literally goes, I'm going to prove that we pay people enough on social services. Okay. I'm going to prove it by living on what they make. Okay, for a month. Well, he lasted a week on what social services was paying everybody else. And he goes, I'm going back to my own life because they've got enough money. The reality of it is, by by us all turning and pulling together, okay, we are going to make this change. Now, I ran into some pretty serious problems, and yes, like I tell you, turn the music up, it will help deal with depression. Okay. And unfortunately, that is a lot of what I dealt with. Way too many setbacks. But are you constantly telling yourself you cannot do something. If you are literally abusing your brain, beating yourself black and blue, derailing your own ability, if you will. Okay. The way that I look at it is very simple. Okay. Yes, I made the mistake the other day of telling my other half that I gave up. I was not doing this anymore. Oh, only she took it as though I was ending up, and I know she took it this way because she told me so. She took it that I was giving up. I was shutting the stream down. I was shutting all my contact with the world down and just walking away. Right. What in fact I've given up on is I'm no longer trusting corporations. I'm just not doing it. Carl, how you doing? The reality is corporations literally abuse their perceived authority. And what I mean by that is they paint this beautiful picture that says, we can do all of this for you. And then they don't follow through with it. Okay. They seem to be after, at least in my experience, and this may be wrong, which is, it may not be the same experience you've had. But this is why I don't name which companies. Okay. But in my experience, without exception, okay, they've painted a beautiful picture to the point I was, in my opinion, stupid enough to actually take them up on their word. Honestly, Philip, alternatives to government, not exactly. Okay. What seems to be required is we require people to step into government that will not adhere to the old patterns. Okay. The reality is the whole 9 yards, the entire societal structure is built right now in a backwards way. And I could go into all kinds of details. Religion is another one that is leading people down a very black path. Okay, we have to realize whether we are talking about paupers, millionaires, politicians, first responders, parents, children, it doesn't matter. We're all guilty of doing the same thing to different options. I will tell you right off the bat, we have to build things back where trust can be built. Okay. Nathan, how you doing? Glad you could join us. So are you lurking around in dark corners there, Nathan? Or just lurking around in the quantum realm? It's not a question of overriding the system. It's a question of having people get involved in the system that are going to turn around and remove, again, the clutter that is there. Okay. The reality is, let's start with the social system, okay, with the Social Security. Now, I know of a case in particular where the person deciding whether somebody got social assistance, okay, the person went in because of a legitimate, diagnosed, and medicated, say, case of paranoid schizophrenia. He goes in to talk to the social worker to get it set up. And the social worker, I kid you not, this is the person that makes the decisions. Are we going to authorize? Are we going to ratify that? Are we going to give you the assistance or not? This genius literally looks at the guy and goes, so this schizophrenia thing, how long is it going to last? 6 months? We require people in positions of authority that actually, number one, think, and number two, do the job they're hired to do. And of course, critically speaking, communication on all fronts is absolutely necessary. Okay. Now, this is just literally the reality of it. In my case, the only thing I've ever guaranteed anybody is I will not lie to you to make you feel better. So if you've got questions, absolutely ask. Any topic, doesn't matter to me. I will do my best to answer it. Or I'll tell you, and I'll either give you an answer, or I'll tell you I'm not going to answer that, or I don't have one. How you doing there, football? I'm glad you could join us. I'm just looking at this. I know I've got these hot links up front, up at the top of the chat. But I do find it kind of beneficial to pop them down here as well. Now, Shadow was in here a little earlier. I'm not sure if he's still here. But absolutely check out what he's working on. Because I will tell you, it's creative stuff like this that when you start getting used to it, and I forgot to bring that with me. I've got a couple of figures I'll have to make, as a matter of fact. Ouch. Matter of fact, I do keep this thing handy. One of the ways of really staying on top of things. What is the day? Today is, I think, today should be Wednesday. Yep. So I won't be on tomorrow, but I will be on Friday. And on Friday, I do have a couple of completed figures. So I'm just making a note for my stream for Friday. Oh, Friday's going to be hectic, isn't it? No, Friday's only 27th. So, stream on 0127. I will have some of the figures. Now, what did I do with it? I would love to show you this. I don't know if this is going to work. I'm going sideways on you. Can't picture me going sideways on anything. I'm always so absolutely stuck on one path. Nope, not that one. This one. I don't think you guys are going to be able to see it. Let me know if you can, though, if you would be so kind. Okay. Now, this is one of that, as you can see, is one of the pictures that's going into the races of the world. Okay. This is the quality of artwork that we're talking about going in. It's not perfect, as nobody's is. Okay. But if you would be so kind as to let me know if you could actually see that, I will run off others. Okay. But I've got, let me just see, just so I can give you the actual answer. Go back up here and we go all the way down to row. And in here, I have a list. Here we go. Now, right now, Chris is doing the artwork. Okay. And here's an interesting thing I didn't even think about. I don't have his link. Okay. But Chris Holm is the guy doing the artwork is the one doing that artwork for me for Races of the World. He's got, we've only got another 5, 10, 15. After this batch he's working on, we've only got 15 more and we're done. Okay. And then I can go to print with it because all the ones that are done are already in the book. So I've already started the final edit to bring out the second printing. One of my big goals for this year, and I had to look at it and go, okay, regardless of what's going on, I'm done playing games with it. Okay. Honestly there, Philip, they are. Okay. These people here are an actual race. Okay. The Anjolas. Okay. Now the Anjolas are what humans have come to understand are angels. Very passionate people in every aspect. Okay. Both on the positive and the negative. Okay. And this is a drawback here, football. Football is just pointing out I was bullied by an old lady at a past, and I quit. I'm guessing that probably missed the word at a past job. But, I thought so. But thanks for the clarification there, football. This is what I mean. We talk about the bullies in school. And people assume that bullies are the ones that beat you up, that physically beat you up or steal steal your lunch money. That's not the only form of bullying. Anytime somebody makes you feel less of a person than what they are and than what you are. Okay. Ugly words, any sort of ugly behavior, any sort of, and I will tell you this, and you're not necessarily going to like this one. Raven, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Many people participate in pranks because they're funny. You know what? Funny doesn't work for the person being pranked most of the time. Sometimes it's comical for everybody involved, but very seldom. Okay. And some of the pranks are just absolutely brutal. And here's the bad part of it. When you prank somebody too often, we have countless cases, okay, where people have committed suicide because of bullying. And apparently there are some new live interaction games where sexual and physical assault are taking place are being permitted to take place in the virtual world. Now, there is a very big difference between showing a movie where this goes on, okay, and having an interactive situation where people are right on top of it. Now, as you may well know, and as some of you that have been bullied may have found out, certain movies you can't watch because they trigger too much. Okay. Myself, I have a very twisted outlook on it now. Okay. Where, you watch a movie and somebody's being bullied and somebody else comes in and beats the living stuffing out of the person. Now, in real life, this is wrong. Okay, it's just blatantly wrong. In a movie, in a story, in a mutually agreed upon physical interaction like mixed martial arts, boxing, karate, fencing, any of these, where it is mutually agreed upon, it's not a problem. It's when one person says, I'm going to do it against this person. Okay, that's where the bullying starts. And this can come from a child towards a parent. Okay, it can come from parents towards kids. World, how you doing? Couple of things here. This is the other one I was supposed to get down here. This is the Quantum Show. And absolutely, this is a very, very beneficial, very enjoyable little show. Nathan does this one. Okay. And of course, World has just come in. So where is World? There we are. And this is to World Bigfoot. Okay. Again, another one of those shows I strongly recommend you drop in, see what they've got to say, especially if you're interested in the Bigfoot side of things. He does a phenomenal job on it. Okay. And there's a lot of them. Like, I'm getting more and more. And like I said, if you have a channel yourself, absolutely let me know what it is, and I will do my best to drop it into the chat room. Okay, because the reality is, when we're looking at bullying, this can apply as well. Okay, I know people go, oh, don't watch anybody else's show because I'm the best. I'm the authority. I'm not the best. I'm not the authority. Okay, I'm really not. At least not in my opinion. But I always held, I did not desire to go on to any sort of a pedestal. Okay, and I got told one day by a very knowledgeable individual, he says, look, Keith, you can't stop people from putting you on a pedestal. The key is do not behave as though you are on one. Okay, there is nothing wrong with giving accolades to somebody. Okay, and Lord knows I'm quite willing to. But the thing that we have to remember is if you're constantly telling people that even if you're telling yourself that you're not capable of doing something, okay, then quite frankly, what you're doing is teaching yourself to lose out on a lot of things. You know, one of the biggest tricks that I found was this one. Okay, I found out that by taking these 4 words, okay, that will help you deal with a whole lot. And yes, this was done by hand. I'm not what I call an artist, but this was done with an actual magnifying lens and sunlight only. I didn't bother going and getting any of the extra tools that are out there. But I will tell you, if I were looking for tools, I know a master woodworker upstairs that actually has all the tools and know-how when it comes to to woodwork. Okay. But if you're constantly telling yourself or other people they cannot do something, okay, you're basically teaching them to give up. Okay. Now, my parents had a brilliant way of doing it. We'd ask, well, can I do this? And Dad would look at us and go, I don't know, give it a try. Right. And I would play with words like that left, right, and center and constantly get berated for it. But, welcome to my world. But if you're following someone, like if I ever say, if I ever tell you, you cannot do this, okay, absolutely, number one, disregard it. Okay, there are some things I will tell you the odds are really bad about. Okay. Yeah, there are some phenomenal people that teach about it. This is why I say I'm not the best. Okay. I mean, I barely qualify as capable in my eyes. But the reality is you may be doing it accidentally. Now, I made the mistake and I have no idea who I said it to. Okay. But I was encouraged to make a comment that I never should have done. I've been beating myself black and blue about it. Okay. And what it was somebody made a comment on a radio show that I happened to be on. And the host made the comment, no, I'm not going to tell you what radio show or anything like that. So don't even bother asking. Okay. But they encouraged me to make a comment to the effect of, where did this person get their really silly idea? Okay. I have no idea who the person was. I have no idea what the comment was, but I do know when I said, I would really love to know where this person got this bizarre concept. It's bugged me for the last probably 7 or 8 years. Okay. It never should have been done, because the reality is some of you guys will come up with, I went through this really weird thing. Like, who was it now? I don't know if I actually wrote the person's name down. I did so. And this, by the way, sheep, I should have done that. I got to make that note again, because I'm going to show you something here. Kimberly, you still in the room? I know you were here. But I figured out how to do something, obviously. But here's the thing. Kimberly sent me a picture. She said she was going to take a look at it. Now, I will tell you, my printer is not good. Okay. So hopefully this is, when Kimberly came on the other day, she asked about whether or not I knew which people these were. This is the picture she sent me. Okay. Now, it is not a good picture. Not at all. Okay. It's a good picture from her standpoint, very clear from what I saw on the screen. But my printer did not do a good job of putting it out. But that is the craft that she saw. Now, if you'll notice, there's a bubble on top of the ship. Okay, now that particular configuration of the ship is Martokian. The one thing that throws a little bit of a loop into it is if you look at these darker sections here. Okay, those are different colored lights. Now, Martokian ships do not have different colored lights, but the Talons do. So, as I wrote back to her and told her, okay, I cannot be certain with the limited information she had remembered. I could not be absolutely certain which was which, which one specifically. Okay. Right off the bat, Philip. Okay. Those 4 words. Okay. And Philip's just stated, I want to be worth it. Well, first and foremost, you already are. But here's the key to it. Okay. And this is something, and it's just dawned on me. Okay. We've got 1 and 2 ways of doing it. Okay. 1, take a sheet of paper, okay, and literally write on it, much like I did here. Okay. Much like I did right here. Well, not that one. This one. Take these 4 words, okay, write those on a sheet of paper. Now, in my case, I take those 4 words and I hang them right here. And if you look on your screen, because I can see it here, you can actually see it on the screen. If you're in the chat room, you can certainly see it. But take those 4 words, put them on a sheet of paper, mount them wherever you do a lot of your work. Definitely put a copy. Now, in my case, I've got them in my office. I've got a laminated set on my fridge freezer, okay, where I can see it every time I walk by it. And I've got one on my front door. Okay. And the reason for that is it will help you, it will help program your brain so that you do feel you're worth it. Now, I remember when I was a kid, my self-esteem was so low, it was absolutely so low, and you hear this echo off in the distance. Well, how low was it? It was literally so low, I would not tell I wouldn't even tell my parents what I was feeling. Okay. In all fairness there, Carl, those prints on the paper, that was done by hand. I just took a sheet of blank paper and a felt pen. Okay. Oh, if I turn that on, here's what happens, and this is why I don't turn it on. Okay, if I turn that on, you can't read it at all, which is why I actually don't turn it on. Okay. It's just a little. Now, somebody mentioned I could probably put onion paper in it to dull it down a little. Onion paper is tracing paper is another word for it. Okay. Now, something that just dawned on me literally while I was online here, where it comes to this whole issue of being worth it. This is a case of programming. Most of you have been, you've been bullied into believing that you're not as good as somebody that's got more money than you, or you're not as good as somebody that dresses better than you. Okay. That's how most of us have been repeatedly beaten on, metaphorically speaking, in some cases, sadly, physically speaking, to prove to yourself, to prove to other people, you're not worthy of their attention. I'm telling you, that can be turned around. Okay. I mean, I look in the mirror and go, why pray tell would anybody pay attention to me? Lord knows I am not the most eloquent speaker. Okay. But I cannot deny the numbers. Now, with that in mind, if you're just joining us or if you haven't been here before, I know we've got a few new voices in the chat room that have been coming in the last couple of days that I don't recognize from before. Okay. But if you haven't done so, absolutely do me a favor and hit the thumbs up on the channel, on the video, on the stream. That came out well. Remember that conversation we were talking about the other day about repeating yourself over and over? Okay. Certainly give us a thumbs up. And do, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and spread the word out of it. Okay. How'd that work for you there, Philip? Yeah. Philip goes, I didn't tell my parents or any other human either, except for non-human animals and whomever hears our prayers. I literally tried to pray away my ADHD. It didn't work. Let me ask you this. Just a tiny question, Philip. We're not going to go into the whole background of it, but do you ever get anything? Do you get things accomplished? Not in a hurry, but do you get anything accomplished without actually being constantly prompted by somebody else to do it? Okay. And by the way, praying away ADHD, there are coping methods, but I will tell you, your mind is your mind. It's going to do what it will. Okay. But regarding this diagnosis of ADHD, okay, the question I was asked by a professional psychiatrist that actually runs a trial clinic. Okay. And that's why I said, do you ever get anything actually completed that you started and didn't require somebody else to constantly be on your back and go and get the job done? That's the first thing you look at. Okay. Now, is your mind hyperactive? I have no doubt about that at all, which is one of the reasons why I strongly suggest. I wonder if I can do that. I don't know if I can, but we're going to see if we can pop it up and do so. If we go to downloads, it should be recent. View, extra large icons. There's a whole pile of things. Here we are. Oh, I don't know if that's going to work. Probably not, because it's too black. But I will see what I can do about that. I was just looking. Raven, you sent a sign over that says shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll end up amongst the stars. Okay. I do have that picture here, and I will be bringing it out. Oh, by the way, I think this is too dark for anybody to see. But let's take a peek at it. This is what's called a preview. Now, this is already completed. This is the next cover of the Yldrbac Chronicles. And again, I was told long ago, and in all fairness, what are we here? Let me go back to that fine little detail. We screen and shorten that one up. There we are. And this is the thing. Philip was just answering the question I asked. I asked, do you get anything accomplished? And Philip writes back, yes, I accomplish anything that hooks the passion of the brain I'm in. I wrote to members of Congress and the media when I was a teenager. According to the shrink that I was talking to, that really took an in-depth look at the way my brain was working. And he, as he pointed out, he runs a trial clinic. And he point blank said, if you complete anything of your own volition without somebody standing there going, get it done, you're not ADHD. You're normal. Okay. You may get sidetracked. You may have way too many things on the go. But if something doesn't catch your attention, just like I've mentioned in the past, it's a question of when your mind can conceive it and your heart can believe it, then you can achieve it. Don't worry about the label that people use, that they say that you either they've told you or you've read up on it, and you come to the conclusion that, oh, they call that ADHD. When I was a kid, that kind of behavior, not getting things done, procrastinating forever, we called it being a teenager. Okay. But now, this is something, I did the first work on these when I was in grade 10. That's the first book, The Birth of the Wolf Pack. The sequel to it is also already in print, being The End of an Epoch. Now, here's a sneak preview because I haven't got the book completed yet. I don't know if you can see this, but this is the cover that will be going on Return to Paradise. Okay. Now, I've got other pictures on that are already done for the next two books after this one. I'm striving to get them all wrapped up so that one artist is doing them. Okay. Oh. Wonder if that's over in my art file. And again, this boils down to when you're looking at being bullied, understand every single person, every one of you has a certain strength. You each have interesting qualities. Now we're just going to ignore those. I do not, okay, it's not in there. Not in there. I apparently do not have it here yet. Unless I popped it in this file, which is quite possible, but not likely. No. But the thing is, if you ever hear somebody telling somebody that they're stupid, people take so much offense to certain things. Now, I unfortunately will get into hiccups. What do we got here? Well, yeah, I understand that. Unfortunately, Philip, they used to teach a lot of things, but what seems to have happened, and this is where I said the educational system has created some problems. I know of CEAs, child educational assistants. Nightmare, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I know of certain CAs, okay, that literally are nothing short of bullies. They either make excuses for the child so they don't have to do their job, or they will turn around and, they will, badger the child. It used to be really bad. If you were left-handed, it used to be really bad in Catholic schools, and I only know of some of them. I don't know if the entire system was set that way. Okay, but Catholic schools used to actually use a ruler. If somebody tried writing with their left hand, they would hit the back of their hand with a ruler. Hate to tell you this, but whether that's in a church, in a school, at home, it's still bullying. It is still a form of abuse. Okay. And unfortunately, this has been taught for centuries. This is something we have to turn around and stop. Well, ultimately, world, you're absolutely correct in my opinion. Okay, what they do is ultimately they teach you to do things their way. And if you don't do it their way, they complain. Now, I was lucky. I ignored them. I was diagnosed actually mentally retarded when I was a kid. So I confused the daylights out of teachers and graduated on the honor roll. However, I've recently come to the understanding that they may have been right. There are certain things in society I just cannot wrap my brain around. Okay. Now, I have tried my best, and this is why I'm turning certain things over to other people. But one of the biggest things we have to look at is if you see somebody bullying somebody else, whether it's their child or whether it's a stranger, okay, in my opinion, it doesn't matter. if we do not speak up for the people being bullied, who's going to? Because the ones being bullied are not going to be, and they just don't know how to stand up for themselves. Okay. And I would love to say, and I have told people, well, the reality is you've got to get out of that situation. The sad part is they already know that. Most people that are being bullied literally know that they require to get out of it. Ultimately, YJ, you're absolutely right. Okay, now let's YJ was just saying that's stupid is a legitimate thing to say, while you're stupid is an assault on one's character. Okay, here's the difference from my standpoint. True ignorance is you're doing it because you really don't know any better. For whatever reason, the message has not gotten in. Okay, stupidity is when you know better and you do it anyway. Okay, like for instance, the first time you put your hand on a burner, okay, a red hot burner, and you don't know, for whatever reason, you just didn't know. So you put your hand on the burner and you go, ow, I burnt myself. Okay, you wait a while until it heals. Okay, now you know that red burner hurts. Okay, because theoretically, when you did, somebody told you if it's red, it's really hot. Usually this happens with kids. But if you turn around and put your hand back on it, this is where we start getting into that bridge of, that was kind of stupid. Okay. And again, YJ's right. When you're talking about the action going, that was a stupid thing to do. Okay. No harm done. But you're stupid. And people are taking offense to words that are just absolutely bizarre. Okay. Oh, you're being stupid. And, quite honestly there, Philip, if you're telling somebody they're being stupid, again, you're talking about the action of being, whatever they're doing. And I agree with you there. Okay. It's not an insult per se. If you're being stupid and aren't aware, hopefully it's doing something. What I've always done in my world is when people come to me with a problem, I will point out where the chair in the hallway is, in the dark hallway is. Once you know it's there, it's up to you to walk around it. But that's what I've always done with my entire life of striving to guide people. Okay. I'm not perfect. Okay. I had $100,000 come through my bank last year. I did not use it wisely. I did stupid things that I knew better, did it anyway. And now I'm sitting behind the 8 ball. Okay. Which is where this whole question of, will I make the trip to Vegas? That remains a questionable point at this point. Okay. Am I still open to it? The answer is yes. But am I going to hang myself to make it happen? Not a prayer. Unfortunately, this is very, well, not unfortunately, YJ. But yes, we have to learn. It's time that we start teaching ourselves and each other when something fits. Okay, when you can tell, is that person being a bully, or is that person just concerned about your health, about your safety or your well-being? Okay, and again, some of it is the delivery. I agree with you wholeheartedly there, Philip. I mean, Frogger's a wonderful game if you're not doing it live. Okay. I mean, bear in mind, you can build yourself up. And blind people do understand. Blind people, people say, oh, they're handicapped. Blind people are not visually challenged. Okay, don't get me wrong, their eyes don't work right. But think of it this way, they are auditorially enhanced. Because the one thing with blind people is they will hear far more than what people that have fully working eyesight hear. Okay, on the average. People that are deaf, often see more or feel more. Okay, because the other senses pick up. I kind of gathered that. Otherwise, Philip, you could have just run out in traffic anyway. Which, by the way, I strongly recommend against. It could have left Italy in a mess. Running out in traffic is usually a bad idea. Okay. The reality of it is, you look at the person, and again, this is why I say, if you're aiming at changing the way your life is going, okay, talk to somebody that has successfully done it. Okay. People that tell you they've done it and are still doing the same stupid thing, you might want to question. And this is why I say, don't take my word for it. Whatever you do, don't just up and take my word for it. Because I am by no means the brightest person on the planet. Okay. You are correct, YJ. There are always nicer ways of telling people things. Okay. I remember telling somebody, I remember watching two kids, one kid beat on another one. I thought they were playing together, right? That they were just goofing off. It was after school. And I watched this younger kid, I'm guessing grade 3, grade 4, was running away from another kid who was swinging at him with a hat. But it sounded like they were both giggling until the young kid fell down on the ground. Okay. And the older kid stood over top of him and just wailed on him with his baseball cap. Now, this isn't going to hurt. It's not going to hurt physically a whole lot. Okay. But, I realized what was going on. And like I said, my mouth goes into gear way before my brain catches up. So I just stood up. There's a whole crowd of parents around. And I stood up and I told the older kid, I said, okay, that's enough. Back off and leave him alone. And he looked at me and I said, look, I don't care who your parent is. Okay, back off. You've done enough. So the older kid backs up and I asked the little guy, I says, are you okay? And he goes, yeah, it's okay. It's only my brother. It's just my brother. And I never even filtered it. I just looked at him and I says, what kind of an idiot parent lets the bullying of one sibling to another carry to the point that you actually think that's okay? I said, it is not even remotely okay. Okay. And I don't know who the idiot parent was that permitted that to grow up, to happen, because this is absolutely unacceptable behavior. Not only should your older brother be ashamed of his behavior, but whoever the parent is should absolutely be ashamed of their behavior. Well, the shocking thing for me was not 10 feet away. The mother stands up and looks at me and goes, you can't talk to my kids like that, and storms off with the kids. Right. And I'm thinking, to me, this is a question of seeing something that is just blatantly wrong. And I don't bite my tongue. I probably should in some cases, but I usually figure that out after I put my foot in my mouth. I know of a guy that can actually see, that uses literal echolocation that will look in to see in the dark. Oh yeah, blind people are not invalids. Okay. I mean, my other half is 100% blind. And like I told her, I says, I am not a control freak. I really am not. But there is one thing I will not support her in yet. I'm not going to let her drive in downtown traffic. I'm just not going to do it. From my standpoint, I figure this is reasonable. But every person, whether you've got eyesight, whether you've got hearing or not, you can learn to utilize those extra skills. Now, I know for an absolute certainty, with the way my hands work, with my sense of touch, or in this case, lack thereof, learning to read Braille would be almost impossible. because I can't tell that I don't actually sense that fine. Yeah. The reality behind Albert Einstein is he wasn't bad at math, he was bored. Okay. He would jump from the question to the answer without knowing how he got there to start with. He learned later how to translate it and how to actually explain it. But unfortunately, it was so far above the heads of the people around him that they couldn't grasp it. Now, before anybody asked, to the best of my recollection, I didn't walk in those circles. When I was alive at the time that Einstein was alive, but I didn't actually walk in the circles that he did because I was violent beyond belief. In my last lifetime, I mean, talk about a bully. It didn't matter who you were. Okay, I would look down on you. At this point, the only people I will look down on are the ones that I'm taller than. And rest assured, there aren't that many. I'm only 5'8". That was, Phil, that was actually how I cured a lot of my memory problem where it comes to, my memory for names. Is instead of continually telling myself I can't remember names, I started telling myself I remember names very clearly now. I'm getting better at it. Now, at this point, I'll certainly tell you I'm not perfect at it. Okay. But I am a lot better than I was. But we have to start by looking in your own heart. Okay. Are you bullying yourself? Are you convincing yourself you're not capable of doing something? Now, qualifying that as I'm not capable at this point, I'm not capable right now, or I'm not capable yet. All of these are perfectly fine. Okay. But telling yourself you can't do something, as my parents pointed out, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, either way, you're likely to prove yourself right. Okay. See, my personal method of telling the weather is I look at the horizon, see and figure out which way the wind is blowing, and I know if I see that happening in 3 or 4 hours, here's the weather I'm getting. It's simple observation. Okay. What do we get here? Yeah. Philip goes, when I was 5 years old, my mother always told me that happiness was the key to life. When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. He goes, I wrote down happy. When I got asked, I didn't think about happy. I want off this mud ball. Well, the reality of it is I got off the mud ball. What I forgot to mention was I didn't want to come back. Okay. Yeah, Phil says they told me I didn't understand the assignment, and I told them they didn't understand life. By John Lennon, which is very true. A friend of mine, he was asked the same question. They asked him, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he was in about grade 5, grade 4, grade 5. He looks at the teacher and he goes, an adult. Okay. Now, would the people that have reached that point of actually being and behaving like an adult, and to me, that boils down to taking responsibility for your own actions, making educated decisions based on what you have come to understand. Okay. And being willing to change the path you're on or your perspective, given that there is evidence that countermounts it that you can work with. That's being an adult. The funny thing there, Carl, from my understanding, loneliness is caused by feeling disconnected from everybody around you. Okay. And that can happen whether you're in a crowd or whether you're on your own. The mistake most people make, and that many people make, is somebody that is alone is not always lonely. Okay. I very seldom get around people aside from one restaurant. Okay. Very seldom do I go and interact with people. But I used to be, when I was out and about with people, I was always lonely. Okay, I was asked how I relate to people, and my immediate reaction has always been, I don't, you know. But when you don't behave in the same fashion that the majority of people behave in, you're told you're not good enough. So we're going to punish you, be it by isolation, be it by ostracization. In other words, making you feel like you didn't belong and then moving you away. Okay. Anything from that standpoint. Okay. All of these are forms of bullying. And they are things that, as a society, as individuals, we can absolutely turn around and change this behavior on a massive level. Yeah, I've never had a problem talking to myself. My problem is I get into an argument. Of course, the drawback there is it's usually a three-way argument, which can be really annoying. But we do have the opportunity to make things happen. Now, as I've said before, and I'm taken to doing this, for those of you that are joining us, that I haven't said hello to, thank you so much for joining us. The sad reality is I don't see everybody coming into the chat room. But if you haven't done so already, please do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, assuming, of course, you like it. And then working together, we can actually spread this message that we can actually turn this world around. Okay, we don't have to continue down the same path we've been going down, but it is up to us as individuals to make this happen. Okay, it's one of those things that we really have to look at and go, how are we going to turn this around? Well, from my standpoint, it's simple. Now, I was really surprised the other day. My Facebook channel, I know some of you don't use Facebook anymore, but my Facebook channel just yesterday or the day before broke 1,000. I've got 1,000 friends online. And rest assured, I don't talk to most of them. Okay. But to give you an idea, when I said I was aiming at building this whole channel, I announce regularly on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on Twitter. Okay, and of course on YouTube, I tell people as often as I can. But you can have as many people around you as you can fit on a continent and still be absolutely lonely if you don't find a way to connect. Okay. And bear in mind, there is a very big difference between connecting with people and feeling lonely. Okay. Or not feeling lonely. Like I've told people my entire life, I can tell how people are going to react, why they're doing what they're doing. This does not mean I relate to them. Okay. Now, I've done some pretty stupid things over the years. And one of the biggest things I did was realize that the path that one of the biggest things I've done that really, for me, kicked the door wide open. I asked a question the other day. Okay. What do you call somebody that constantly berates you or tells you you don't do something? And I'll ask the same question here. And, here's a spoiler for you. Raven came up with the answer yesterday herself. Okay, but the question I asked was, what do you call somebody that constantly tells you you're not good enough? If you don't do exactly what I'm telling you, I'm going to make your life miserable. I'm going to beat you up. I'm going to take away your stuff. I'm going to make you feel really bad. What do you call somebody that behaves like that to other people? There's a common term for it. And I know you know, Raven, because you're the one that actually pointed it out. Okay. Okay, making a note of that right now there. Who are we dealing with here? Joe, I think. Yeah, Joe. About vague fears. Well, like I said, you come up with a topic, I'll figure out a way to lock it in. Now, tomorrow is Thursday, so tomorrow's certainly not going to happen. But what I can do is we get up here. Now, today is the 25th. So I need to grab my calendar because I moved it. And I can't write on it there. So, go here, 27th is Friday. And that means what we do is we write in the topic here. And on Friday, we will deal with vague fears on the stream. Vague fears, how they come about, what is likely the cause, and what to do with them. Okay. Vague fears are very similar, in case you hadn't figured it out, to the predecessor to phobias. Okay. And, much like many people there, Carl, many people don't talk to their relatives, primarily because they usually see themselves as the black sheep of the family, or they've been treated as such. Okay. And by the way, if you're being treated as the black sheep of the family, okay, this is another form of subtle bullying. Okay. But yeah, I've added that to my list now. Okay, to the list of topics we're going to look at. Okay, what do we do here? Yeah, I had a friend that used to prefer connecting with mechanical stuff. And then he got a job in a junkyard as a wrench. And he told me he came home, he was so excited. He comes home and goes, "I'll never work another day in my life." Okay. And the reason he said that was because he was a grease monkey to the core. And in all honesty, and this is just the reality of it, when I get this channel growing to the point, and I got to talk to Dave about that. When I get this channel and Inner Voice Enterprises itself, growing to the point where it's generating, where combined I'm generating enough income, that will be where I stand and go, okay, this is a good thing. I can work with it. Okay. Now, do I know how to go about all this at this point? Clearly not. But am I going to give it up? No. Have I given up trusting corporations? Yeah, pretty much. So they're just going to start off on the idea that, look, your sales pitches are fantastic. Now, prove it to me before I give you a plug nickel. Okay. And the reality is, what happens, and you find this with many salespeople, politicians, they badger you or literally bully you into signing their petition or into signing their contract. Okay. The reality of it is that yeah, and it's I do appreciate that there, football. Football's just saying that she connected with us on LinkedIn under a government name. Now, the reality of it is, do I know, like, I figured out on LinkedIn, I've got 2,500 connections. Now, I'm a recluse. So for those of you that feel that you can't, that you don't know how to connect with people, I will tell you this. Okay. I'm a recluse. I've stayed home most of the last 10 years. This is why when the whole COVID mess came out and everybody said, stay home, stay away from people, and drink warm liquid, I'm sitting there going, I don't like going out. I have to give people a reason so that they'll leave me alone. So I don't have to go out. I prefer staying home, and I've got a 30-cup urn. I'm going to be good. I really didn't have a problem. Everybody goes, oh, we're being locked up. We're going stir crazy. I'm going, this has been the most relaxing couple of years. I didn't have to come up with reasons not to go out. Okay. See, funny thing there, Philip, I keep getting phone calls from people telling me that my government number has been canceled or it's been suspended. And when they do that, I'm like, well, thank you very much. Because from my standpoint, if my number is suspended, I'm not paying taxes anymore. Just a thought, YJ. That concept of seeking a property. Take a sheet of paper, draw a rectangle, and literally on it, you write, I own my own property. Be as descriptive as you'd like, except never, ever, ever put somebody's name on it or an address. Okay, you just describe the qualities of the qualities of the picture. Okay, of the property you'd like. Even if you want to go out and get a picture of a property like it, do not take a picture of the address, only of the empty lot. Okay, this is just another method of reinforcing manifestation. Okay, but does it work? The answer is absolutely it does. But understand, first rule of thumb, take it to your heart, and no, you're not seeking for it. No being KNOW. You're not seeking the property. You own it. Okay, it already belongs to you. Now let's be realistic. Unless you're not paying taxes on it after the fact, after you bought it, you don't technically own it. You're leasing it. Okay, leasing it, or you can call it renting it, or whatever you will. But if you're paying land taxes, it's not yours, because if you owned it, in simplest terms, you wouldn't still be paying for it. I had a client years ago that when she spotted a property she desired to have, she went a little overboard in my eyes, but she would take a chunk of wood and she would whittle that whole piece of property. And within a year of completing that whittled piece of property, she would own the physical item. Now, would I even start to work like that? No. But I did find a place that, and I'm sure World will like this one. Okay, if he gets back here or if he's in the room still. I did find a place where I can get an archway to build a diorama for the Yldrbac Chronicles. Okay, again, I'm starting to get into that side of it while I'm in the middle of reorganizing things here. Okay, but whatever you've got in your hand that you feel you would like to accomplish, first and foremost, do your best to avoid letting people tell you can't make it happen. Okay, they tell you cannot do it. I will tell you, there are a lot of things I would not recommend, but there is very little that you cannot do. Okay, one of the things I personally don't recommend, aside from ice cream and ketchup, is I don't personally recommend skydiving. Of course, from my standpoint, I can't see a logical reason of getting out of a perfectly good aircraft. The way I figure it, if it's in good shape, it'll land eventually, and then I can get off it safely. If it runs into a problem, absolutely, somebody strap a parachute to my back and push me out. Okay, I'll take my chances at that point. But prior to that, I'm not leaving. I just don't see the point to it. You know, so I mean, when we're looking at the whole thing, I'm asking you all to really step up to the plate and ask me. And when you see bullying or you see somebody being berated for something that doesn't add up, and the biggest one I ever saw was somebody blaming somebody and blaming another person for their drinking. And I'm telling you, regardless of what it is you're fighting with, okay, regardless of what you're fighting with, it's still your personal responsibility. Okay. And this is one of the biggest things that we have to look at is it is time for us to really start pulling together and go, no, like the song by Twisted Sister said, we're not going to take it anymore. Okay. And no, I do not listen to heavy metal or hard rock or whatever you want to call it. But there are certain songs that do come out that you kind of hear. Okay. Well, thank you so much for the update there, Carl. I appreciate that. For those of you that are just listening in, that are not in the chat room, we've got 16 in the chat. Carl was just telling us we've got 16, well, now down to 15 in the chat room. We've got 18 thumbs up. Fantastic. I mean, this is just absolutely fabulous from my end. I'm just hitting refresh to see what the count is here. Okay. Just waiting for it to come back up. And we are sitting at, come on, you can do it. Yeah. We are sitting at 355 subscribers. Now the reality is what I find happens is that we end up with is that changes after we get off. You know, I was actually asked by somebody one day. They literally dropped me a line to ask if it was okay for them to just listen in. Okay. And like I told them, you know, we've got 355 and we've got 16 in the chat room. Okay. What they call good memory, just short. 6 are sending messages. So this is almost triple right off the bat. Now, if you just triple that one more time, okay, we're looking at different issues coming up. Now, the only reason I look at subscriptions is because when it hits 1,000, that's when YouTube starts paying me. Okay, and the plus side is, and this is why I say the different chat rooms I pointed out, go give them a thumbs up, do subscribe to their channel. It does help the markings and brings them up into the category, closer into the category of actually generating a small income, or at least potentially generating a small income. I don't know the process of that yet. Bomber, how you doing? You know, I'm glad you can join us. And, you know, the fact you're late, you're right on time. I mean, granted, you missed the first over half the show, but I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to drop in. LA, how you doing? Hopefully things are going well on your end. People, yeah, you know, thank you so much for that, LA. I really appreciate that. Yeah, people are looking for answers all over the world. And, you know, the reality is, do I have all of the answers? Certainly not. Okay. Am I going to to claim that I'm the only way you're going to get an answer? Absolutely not. The only thing that I am the only way you're going to get an answer about is I am the only one that can give you an answer about the way I see something or the way that I feel about something. That I'm the only one that can give you that answer. Everybody else can surmise it. Didn't see you come in there, man, Mac Geek. As you can tell, I can speak really well. You know, this is why I tell people I know how to speak stumbleese. You know, well, the thing about that I look at where it comes to this whole world is we are taught so much to believe that we have to fear everything around us. Oh, that's a weird person. Fear them. I remember walking down the street with somebody one day, and there was a guy on the other side of the street wearing a 2-foot spiked rooster cut. Okay. And the person I was walking with looks at the person, and not to them, just to me about the person, made a derogatory comment. Okay. And, I just looked at them and went, tell me, what is it that bothers you about it? Is it the fact that he's got the courage to wear his hair that way, or the fact that you don't? Which one bothers you more? Phil's just saying, I do Pinterest boards try to draw our and make conscious and subconscious. Multi-million-dollar multi-million self-help guru recommended to me that I ask for advice on a free question and answer he was doing. And that's just it. This is why I say I watch some channels come up and go, oh, we're now charging for this extra little piece. I've got no interest in charging people for access to what I'm doing on YouTube. Do I charge for consulting? Absolutely. And there are times when it will take a lot more than just a single question. Okay. But one of the books I'm actually in, I decided I've got to get on it. It's a question of getting things moving in the right direction. Oh, okay. Thanks for that will explain the missing draw. The funny thing about it is that the more you look in the mirror, the more you tell yourself, I am worth it. Or I am valuable. I have value. Tell yourself this as often as you can get away with. Now, this does not mean you have to walk down the middle of the street or down the middle of the hall and go, oh, look at me, I'm so special. Okay. All this means is keep that here. You don't have to be standing on a pedestal and have everybody look at you. Okay. As a matter of fact, and this is something I was warned about, people may look at you and go, you're a real special person, you're fantastic. But as long as you don't start seeing yourself that way and treating other people as though they are less, then you're on the good track, on the right track. Okay. One of the biggest things that I do find, okay, see, all we require at this point, we'd actually require, I think, 7 more people. No, 9 more people to actually break our record at this point. Because as I recall, the best we pulled out was 26. 26 in the chat room about a month ago now. Okay, all at the same time. Now, I look at statistics not as a way to figure out if I'm worth anything. I gave up on that. From my standpoint, I'm surprised anybody listens to me, frankly. Lord knows I talk to myself enough and argue with myself enough that my ideas are not always viable. But I am absolutely going to sit here and tell you, if there is any goal that you've got that you haven't gone after, okay, it really is time to start making that happen. Now I ran into a problem, and I run into it periodically going, why am I bothering? Okay, like I keep asking myself, and as was put a little earlier tonight, asking, whoever's answering the prayers. In this case, I ask God directly. I don't bother with these liaisons. Right. But why do this when the world is not viably changing at this point? Okay. And the reality of it is, I got told you're still lighting the way for some people. And I get a staggering amount of support in here. Like when I had the heart attack the other day, I was just flabbergasted. I think I had something in excess of 70 people asking me if I was still breathing, which, in all fairness, I was. Still am, for that matter. But from my standpoint, the thing we have to look at is this. When we all work together, when we all go hand in hand, regardless of the differences, okay, we can move mountains. We can change the tide of society, but it's going to require a lot of work. Okay, it's not going to happen overnight, but then, if you think about it, society has essentially remained the same, aside from more and more neater and fancier toys. Society is the same now. And I'm speaking from personal observation because I remember my past lives. Society is still doing the same thing that we did back in ancient Rome, back in ancient Egypt. We're still doing the same thing. You'd think 5,000 years of evolution would have taught us something a little different. They absolutely do, until you get some joker like Mount St. Helens that goes, done, lost the top quarter mile. I tell you, we end up spending weeks cleaning the ash off our deck up here in Kelowna. Now, Mount St. Helens is way down in the middle of Washington State. Okay. But when we take a look at the communication lines between us, and this has been proven, now we can live our life talking about fear and scaring everybody and working at making everybody feel more miserable. I'm better than you because I'm standing in the front of a crowd of people on a pulpit going, I'm better than you. I have a direct connection. Newsflash, every single one of you has that same direct connection. Every single one of you can do literally everything I personally do. You've got the capacity to do the same thing. You can accept people across the board as equals. Mount St. Helens just wanted to make sure that everybody knew she was there. The reality is we have to look at the whole idea. What have we got here? Oh, yeah, that's just it. Now, we've got one that is in dangerously high stress point. That would be Yellowstone National Park. Now, here's the neat thing. That particular volcano, if it goes off, we've got a problem. However, if either Mount Kilimanjaro on the other side of the world, or probably four minor volcanoes around the St. Helens area, and there are a number of them there, if those can release a little bit of pressure, then Yellowstone becomes a stable little environment again. If they don't, and Yellowstone goes off, we're going to have a night that is one to remember. Of course, you're likely to freeze to death, but what the heck? I love watching lava. It makes such wonderful arrays. One thing I do know, people, when I get done this stream, I will be getting supper. Note to self, get supper about an hour before I actually come online. That way, I don't get dizzy from lack of food. On the other hand, you kind of have to cut down on the food that you've got. Like, how many people do you know of that somebody will look at their body and look at the fact they're a little overweight and go, oh, you've got this for, you're you're useless because you're fat, you're lazy. And many, 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 many times that is called, the weight is either because they're being verbally abused to start with and it's a way of keeping people away, or because they actually have a medical problem. Okay. Where it literally just, or because they have like medical as in thyroid or adrenal, or they've got a medication that is doing stunts. Football, that is absolutely great. Football's just saying she had pulled pork from honey baked ham. Now, from my standpoint, haven't got to that point. I have started, as a matter of fact, I was supposed to pick that up, but I gotta go out tomorrow or Friday anyway. Because I do have a recipe for a breakfast casserole that I tried the other day and I just loved it. But and like I said, I haven't gone out of my way to cook in 30 years. Uh-oh. Now, LA, can I do what my parents used to complain about? Like, when I was growing up, my parents used to go, when somebody would complain, oh, I don't like that, I don't want to eat that. They do the same silly thing that other people did. Okay. It only lasted for a very short period. They'd go, there are kids starving in Ethiopia. And my family learned very quickly to push our plate across the table or back to the center and go, great, ship it to them. In my case, I was not letting food go for anybody. That was going to me. If somebody had leftovers, that was mine. Mom would turn around and go, do you want blueberry or apple pie? I'd look at her and go, yes. I'd go, yes, please. So here's where it comes to what I was asking there, LA. Frank's making steak and fries. Can I have an order to go? Or more to the point, can I have an order delivered? Because I'm not driving that far for anybody. But I do know that Frank is a phenomenal cook. Sadly, he doesn't have a restaurant, and somehow I don't think he's going to deliver from way down there all the way to way up here. Yeah. See, Mom and Dad came to the conclusion that it was like, you don't want it, that's fine, because that's all that's available, because we're not a restaurant. Yeah, that was much like when my mom got married. She knew how to make 12 types of porridge and buttered toast. Dad taught her to cook after that, and she became one of the best cooks I'd ever run across. Without exception, she'd make a turkey that'd just melt off the bone. Dad was the barbecue nut. Okay. But I'll tell you, I didn't pick up any of that because, frankly, lack of taste buds, hyperactive metabolism, lousy sense of timing and space, not a great combination. Now, LA, I thought the idea of a teacher was to have a student that became better than them. Most teachers at least claim and go, I really desire my students to learn better than I did. My claim to fame is I hope that my son learns better tact than I do. I remember being asked by somebody one day, they went, why do you always ask me questions you know absolutely what the answer is? I looked at them and said, well, if I didn't, I wouldn't talk to you at all. But when we're looking at, you take a look at something like that, okay, and that's all it takes. Okay, it's just complimenting somebody on something that was done well. Okay, that's all it takes to counteract what could be the worst day of somebody's life. Well, yeah, when that was the thing. My mom and dad used to, and they never complained about us about that side of it. There were only two reasons that mom and dad would go, would say, okay, you don't have to eat it. If one, you were allergic, sorry, three reasons. If you were allergic to it, if whatever it was, the texture or the sensation literally made you throw up, or if, as you got pushed into, eat until you throw up. It's like, okay, eat, but I'm too full. Get it finished. Right. So you get it finished and pop it out on the table again. At that point, the parent usually gets the idea. Now, mind you, I know some that are really slow learners. I mean, I remember one situation because growing up in the church, we learned about the Advent calendar. And my brother came to me one day, and this brother's passed away. And he goes, I don't get it. My kids are so well behaved, and then at night they come right off the deep end, especially around Christmas. I says, well, what's going on? So he says, everything goes fine, but we eat our Advent calendar at 7:00 at night, and then they're just bouncing off the walls. Well, he was feeding them a box of straight sugar, that wide by that deep, right? And, about that thick. It was just straight sugar that he was feeding them. I says, well, there's your problem. He says, quit feeding the kid sugar and tell them to sit down. It's not going to happen. Well, that's the idea, YJ. We are supposed to, and this is why I say we've got to get people educated. We've got to look at this world, and, well, we don't have to. You can leave it on the path it's on. However, understand, if the world stays on the path it is currently on, it will, in all probability, buckle. Okay, I've seen the world come to a grinding halt multiple times where it continued down the path we are currently on. Okay, just different toys. And it ended up buckling. Now you have that choice. We can continue ignoring the world and going, somebody else will fix it. God will come down. The off-worlders will come down. The ancient races will come up. Somebody else will take responsibility and clean up this mess. I'm not holding my breath for that. First of all, I can only hold my breath for maybe 30 seconds. Okay, this ain't much time to work with. But you've got that choice. Or you can continue looking to the past and talk, and you can listen to the people that are propagating the world's going to end. We're all going to die. This is the end times. This is the time that we're all going to end up being wiped out. You can propagate that thinking process if you'd like, but understand karmic law says energy out, energy in. If you're propagating that kind of belief, okay, if you're going to promote that kind of belief, you can almost bet your bottom dollar we're going to manifest that as a reality. My personal opinion, again, what I am personally looking at doing is helping people realize that we've got to start looking at it going, no, number one, if you believe in God, if you believe in Gaia, Mother Earth, whatever name you want to call it, Allah, don't matter. Okay, whatever you want to call it. What I'm asking you to do is realize that this is not a violent entity. This is not a vicious, vindictive, nasty individual. He is not going to punish you for not doing precisely what he says. Okay, or she. He, she, it doesn't matter to me. Okay, it's all names for the same individual. Or for a similar one anyway. I agree with you there, YJ. YJ just says the end times are actually the beginning of a new chapter, usually a better one. Unfortunately, in my experience, counting back over just the last 3 flips. Okay, now bear in mind, the last one was when this universe came into being. Okay, the last 3 flips I have not seen this happen. People have, what they've done is the end times have happened when they picked up the mess, when they cleaned up from it, they turned around and rebuilt the same silly problems. Okay. Yeah, the reality is there, Joe. I don't know enough different names of buckets. But I do agree with you. I've turned around. That's always handy. I appreciate that there, Philip. Phil's just said, let me know if you want to connect with a priest who studied Klingon. Klingon is a wonderful language, very robust. Do I speak it? No, I really don't. The only word I can remember, and in all fairness, I pronounce it really poorly and don't know what it means. So I'm guessing this is probably not the word to use. Okay. But poorly pronounced would be Kapla. I have no idea what it means, but I hear a lot of Klingons saying it. Okay. And so it's got to be some sort of a greeting or an agreement of some form. But virtually every religion I've looked at teaches ultimately the same thing. Okay. And then it gets completely twisted, not by the base of the religion or the base of the spiritual path, but by the people that are putting themselves into a headline position where they turn around and go, I'm the head here. Now I know of a couple where they have ended up in top positions as a leader of a coven or a leader of a church, where they literally, not only do they promote property and proper behavior, but they live that proper behavior. Matter of fact, in some of their cases, I don't know if they can even conceive anymore of not living the behavior that they promote. Myself, the tools I talk about, the philosophies I live by, I live by a very simple set of rules. But one of them is this: I'll discuss philosophy with anybody, but here's the catch. If, when all is said and done, okay, if you still are holding solid to your philosophy, then you're on the right track for you. If you're not, then there's something off kilter with the way you've been looking at the world. Oh, that is absolutely fantastic, YJ. Okay, now stay focused. You don't, the reality of it is, now that you've got it written down, put it somewhere where you can see it. Okay, and it really does work. Okay, but like everything else, you got to do the work for it. Now, needless to say, if you've got a type of property in mind, certainly go out and find out what the average cost is, so you've got a ballpark of what you're willing to pay. Now, I will tell you, I was told one day, really important little piece of information. When you're looking at a property, you buy a small, manageable house and a huge property. Okay, because what you're buying is privacy. I think that was a song. It's the end of the world as we know it. I believe that was by the Beatles. Or was it by the Monkees? But yeah, every time the world ends, it begins anew. There's no question there. But what we have to realize is we've got to change. Oh, thank you so much there, world. Which gives you an idea of how much I actually pay attention, or it's not pay attention. It's how much I remember of that sort of thing. Yeah, that's why, where is it? I think it's right here. Ouch. Sure, stand up and pop the knee out of joint. That always feels good. Now, I believe it's under P. P for paper. There we go. in my personal file. Okay, in my personal file now, like I said, like I told my brother, my filing this year is staggeringly ahead of the last time. But I had yeah, you can just see I've written. I don't expect you to read it. Okay, but I've got 12 things on my list and I'm working on all of them. Okay, and I will tell you, I am going to do my level best to get to them. But you're absolutely right there. You're absolutely right. Where it comes to getting on track, started off in small steps. Where it comes to this whole idea, if you're used to telling people that they are, they're short, they're coming up short in certain behaviors, do me a favor and do them a favor. Learn more tact than I ever did. Okay, that funny little voice in your head, in most people's heads, goes, "Oh, I shouldn't say that." The one in my head waits until after the fact and goes, "You really shouldn't have said that." Or you really shouldn't have said it in that way. Works out great from that standpoint. The neat. Well, that would have made sense. But no, we have to look at the idea. Are you looking in the mirror going, "I can't do this"? Okay. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you something that I never thought I'd be able to do, but did. I'm not going to show it to you today. On Friday, I've got a list of things I'm going to be doing on Friday here. But I'm going to show you, because one of the things I found that really helps with self-esteem, with counteracting the effects of bullying, is doing something that you can stand there and physically look at and go, "I made this." Okay, so I'm going to show you on Friday. Okay, I've got it listed down to bring a couple of things with me. Okay, that are, to me, very important, because in all fairness, I never thought I'd be able to do them to start with. I don't think by editing subroutine is broken at all. I don't think it was installed. I remember I was talking to somebody, and some people would call it. Now, why, pray tell, is that there? Oh, that's why. Okay. I remember somebody making a comment, and you can call this bullying. I call it hoof and mouth disease. Somebody made a comment that was so absolutely out of the question of reality in my eyes. I looked at the person and go, "Would you mind telling me, are you a complete idiot or are there parts missing?" For some reason that wasn't accepted as a very polite way of putting things. Now the answer to your question there, what do we got here? Oh, okay. Oh, that's for somebody else, so I'm going to ignore it. But no, when you have something, when you challenge yourself, and again, like I said, it's not one of my big 12 for the year, but I am going to teach myself how to read Braille by sight, simply because of the fact that I desire to. But I'm also going to remind myself, I used to do it regularly, how to write in runic. Okay, I used to be able to write it easily. This little book, needless to say, has stuck around for a while. But it's really important at this stage in our life that we turn, and especially at this stage in society, that take a look in the mirror, ask yourself, "Oh, I honestly don't recall, but it was that whatever they said, it was very derogatory and a very I do recall it was religiously oriented to make somebody that was not of a religious bend make them feel like they were completely out of God's grasp. And I just looked at the person and it was like my mouth went into gear. And apparently he took offense to it. Can't imagine why. I mean, it's not like I was insulting or anything. I mean, I did ask him if he was complete or if there were parts missing. You know. Oh, no, I used to play. I did get taught. I spent, where it comes to the keyboard, I I spent 3 months learning to play piano, and apparently I was good at it. And 3 months learning organ. Problem was that the teacher was absolutely unfair, and I could not tolerate the unfairness of the way she was marking. So I dropped out of it. Do I write song lyrics? Yes. Do I sing? No, that's pretty much a good thing that I don't. I was told all the time when I was growing up, you can't sing. Unfortunately, in some people's eyes, I took that to heart. Okay. But I am putting together a book that's got some of the poetry and some of the songs I've written without the music. Because what I don't know how to do is, number one, I don't know how to write music. And number two, I certainly don't know how to carry a tune properly. And no, I don't sing in the bathroom in the shower either. Because in there, I mean, my bad voice just echoes. Not exactly an improvement. It does. The problem is I can't. I'm just looking at this YJ saying that Canadian money has braille in the corner, and it does. Problem is I can't feel it. You know, that becomes an issue. You'd have to have some pretty thick imprints for me to actually feel the bumps, and then to try and separate them is another problem altogether. But with that in mind, again, it boils down to it's time we really take a look at the world and go, it's time to change what we're looking at. Are we spending our time telling people that they are of less value because they don't believe in exactly what we believe in? Are you telling yourself you'll never accomplish whatever? Okay, these are all things that can really deplete somebody's sense of self. Okay, and one of the big things that I really desire to see happen, okay, is I would love to see this, and I'm just going to tie things off with this. I would love to see this channel grow to the point of literally like some channels where they have, literally thousands of people in the chat room, all behaving in the positive interactive way you guys behave. With that kind of support, with that kind of interaction, we really can make this a better world. Now, right about now, that's the best way I can put it. That's the nice part is I can do that to a degree with my other half. Okay, it still doesn't change my opinion in my voice, but the reality of it is there's a lot of changes that can take place. Now, that said, we've actually passed the 2-hour mark, but I started a little early. So, that being said, thank you so much for joining me. Absolutely, if you haven't done so, if you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel and share it as far as you possibly can, because I would love to see this grow at this point. Well, I'm aiming for 1,000 before the end of the year. But I would love to get to the point of having thousands upon thousands of people be interacting like you guys do with each other. It's absolutely fabulous what I see here. Okay, it's because of your guys' interaction that I actually really try and be on here on a daily basis. Well, except Thursday. Okay. Now, that said, I'm going to call this a night. Thank you so much for joining me. And absolutely, I will see you again on Friday at 4:30. But until then, at least that's my intention. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.